Good afternoon to you. Today we will continue with the Constitution. In the Constitution, we have taken Article 368, Amendment of the Constitution, and after having seen the procedure, we have seen the question of amendability of the Constitution. So, in this part, we have seen Ramesh Thapar case, Chenbagam Rajan case, and then Shankari Prasad case. Today we will see what is known as Sajjan Singh case. That is, this is part 7 of amendment. You know, the Shankar Prasad case, Supreme Court said that the Parliament has powers to amend the Constitution. And the prohibition in Article 13 applies only to the law, inverted comma, that is court law, which is made by virtue of the legislative power of the Parliament. So the law is of two types. One is an ordinary law, which is made in consequence of the legislative power of the Parliament. And another is a law which is made in exercise of constituent power of the Parliament. You know, I have explained various powers of the Parliament. We have seen financial powers, we have seen executive powers, we have seen legislative powers, we have seen ordinance making powers. The legislative powers and the ordinance making powers is as a result of the legislative powers. The law is made by virtue of the legislative power. Then we have seen constituent power also. So by virtue of constituent power, the Constitutional Amendment Act is made. So we should know the difference between the two. And Supreme Court said the law made by ordinary legislature, that is by virtue of legislative power, that law is only covered under Article 13 prohibition, and constitutional law, that is any law to amend the Constitution, is not covered under the purview of law. So, Article 13, that the prohibition, that is the embargo, that is the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges any of the rights conferred in Part 3 of the Constitution. If any law is made taking away or abridging any of the rights conferred in Part 3 of the Constitution, that law to the extent of repugnancy is null and void. So, this prohibition applies only to the ordinary law and does not apply to the constitutional law which is made by virtue of, by exercise of the constituent power of the Parliament. This is the verdict of the Supreme Court in Shankari Prasad case. Okay. Gaining strength from this, Parliament made two important amendments. What are those amendments? 4th Amendment Act regarding the adequacy of compensation, and 17th Amendment Act, under which 44 land reform acts have been included in the 9th schedule. 9th schedule itself was added through First Amendment Act 1951 under Article 31B. Now, the 17th Amendment Act added 44 land reform acts in the 9th schedule, extending judicial immunity to these laws. So, all the 44 laws have been given judicial immunity. As a result, no court can go into the question of the validity of these laws. That judicial immunity has been given through 17th Amendment Act. In fact, this was challenged in the Sajjan Singh case. Remember, in the Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan, it has two parts. Please follow closely. Very interesting, at the same time important. This Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan has two important aspects. Two cases are clubbed, mingled in this. What are the two parts? First part is related to Article 311. Second part is the question of validity of 17th Amendment Act. The first part, let us see. It is an individual case in which Sajjan Singh himself is involved. This Sajjan Singh was appointed as a sub-inspector of police in Rajasthan Police. Who appointed him? Inspector General of Police, Jaipur. Who appointed? Inspector General of Police, Jaipur has appointed Sajjan Singh as Sub-Inspector of Police when? On 10th February 1948. Now, he was confirmed in the post in September 1951. 48 appointed, 51 confirmed. So, he had a hold, he had a lean, he had a confirmed post. On the basis of certain misconduct, Sajjan Singh was dismissed from service by Deputy Inspector General of Police. By Deputy Inspector General of Police when 11th August 1953. Who appointed him? Inspector General of Police. Who dismissed him? Deputy Inspector General of Police when 11th August 1953. Sajjan Singh preferred an appeal to the appellate authorities. Two appeals, perhaps apparently appeal and petition or review. Both the appeals have been rejected by the appellate authorities. Subsequently, Sajjan Singh challenged the order of his dismissal in the Supreme Court on two counts, on two grounds. What are the grounds? Number one, he had not been given adequate opportunity to explain his misconduct. This is number one. Number two, he was dismissed by Deputy Inspector General, whereas he was appointed by Inspector General. That means he was dismissed a person who is not equal or above of the appointing authority. These two grounds he had said, he had preferred to the Supreme Court and said that the order of dismissal is illegal and unlawful and requested for reinstatement. Now let us see what is the ground, whether the ground is genuine, whether the ground is valid, let us see. See, as far as services under the government are concerned, 3 articles govern. In fact, four articles, let us see only 3. One is Article 309, 310, 311. Under Article 309, appropriate legislature can make law to regulate the recruitment and conditions of service of the employees deployed at the disposal of the union or the state. Appropriate legislature, that means in respect of central employees, the parliament can make. In respect of state government employees, the state legislatures can make. Now, until the law is made by the appropriate legislature, it is competent for the President of India or the governor, as the case may be, to make rules to govern the recruitment and conditions of such employees who are deployed at the service of the union or the state, as the case may be. So, Article 309 gives the powers to the appropriate legislature, and till the law is made, the powers have been given to the President or the governor, as the case may be. This is Article 309. Now, Article 310, otherwise called the doctrine of pleasure. This is called the doctrine of pleasure. What does it mean? Subject to the provisions of the Constitution, every person who is holding in an All India service or Central Civil Service or State Service, etc., hold the post during the pleasure of the President or the Governor, as the case may be. That is, subject to the provisions of the Constitution. Why subject to the provisions of the Constitution? This doctrine of pleasure is applicable only in respect of certain employees. For instance, you cannot exercise the doctrine of pleasure against the judges of Supreme Court or High Court or CAG or Chief Election Commissioner at all. Why? For them, for their removal, there is a separate procedure given in the Constitution itself. So, Article 310 says, which is doctrine of pleasure, subject to the provisions of the Constitution, every person holding a civil post or who is a person holding all India services or central civil service or state service etc. hold their post during the pleasure of the president or the governor as the case may be. What does it imply? It implies that a government servant can be dismissed at any time without giving notice, without reason or without cause of action for wrongful dismissal. So, unilateral powers for the President of India or the Governor in respect of dismissal of a government servant belonging to the central or state as the case may be. This is called the doctrine of pleasure. Now, for this doctrine of pleasure, which is given in Article 310, Article 311 itself is an exception, subject to the provisions of the Constitution. So, Article 311 itself is an exception to Article 310. What is that exception? Article 311 gives two procedural safeguards to all the employees, whether central or state. To all the employees, two procedural safeguards have been given. What are those procedural safeguards? Number one, no government servant can be dismissed or removed by any authority who is subordinate to the appointing authority. Remember, very important, no government servant can be dismissed or removed by any authority who is subordinate to the appointing authority. This is the first safeguard. What is the second safeguard? No government servant can be dismissed or removed or reduced in rank except after an inquiry in which he is informed of the charges and is given a reasonable opportunity of being heard in person. This is the what is popularly known as inquiry. So, without inquiry, you cannot dismiss, you cannot remove, you cannot reduce him in the rank. So, status. So, these two procedural safeguards have been given in the Article 311. Now, the first safeguard, no government servant can be dismissed or removed by any authority who is subordinate to the appointing authority, cannot be dispensed with under any circumstances. So, indispensable safeguard. Second safeguard, no person can be dismissed or removed or reduced in rank except after an inquiry in which he is informed of the charges and is given a reasonable opportunity of being heard in person. This inquiry can be dispensed with in three circumstances. What are those? Criminal conviction. What does it mean? A government servant can be dismissed or removed or compulsory retired on the basis of the conduct which has led to his conviction on a criminal charge. So, if he has been convicted by the court of law, there is no need for any inquiry. This is first exception. Second exception is inexpediency. What is inexpediency? If the President of India is satisfied that in the interest of security of state, it is not expedient to hold an inquiry. Obvious, too clear to explain. Because if a person is involved in any espionage or security related cases, there is no need for any inquiry. This is number two. Number three is where the disciplinary authority is satisfied that for the reasons to be recorded in writing that it is not reasonably practicable to hold an inquiry. For the reasons to be recorded in writing. In the case of security, there is no need for explaining the reasons in file. Whereas in the third case, where the disciplinary authority is satisfied that for the reasons to be recorded in writing that it is not reasonably practicable to hold an inquiry, there is no need for any inquiry. So, this is the third. What does it mean? Suppose let us say in open office, there is a molestation or there is a rape. Let us say there are 30 people working in the section. A girl has been raped. Do you conduct an elaborate inquiry? Rule 14, no. You adopt under the Article 311, third proviso, exception, you will dismiss him straight away. You will not call all the witnesses and examine, etc. because it itself is a criminal offence. So, you will dismiss him immediately by recording the reasons in file. So, these are all the three exceptions for the second safeguard. For the first safeguard, there is no exception at all. Now, in the case of Sajjan Singh, the first exception has been made null and void. The first exception has not been followed. So it is a wrong on the part of the Deputy Inspector General to dismiss a person who was appointed by Inspector General of Police. This is the first part of the case of Sajjan Singh. What is the second part? This has been clubbed with the what is known as 17th Amendment Act, in which 44 land reform acts have been included in Schedule 9, extending judicial immunity to these laws. Now the question is, Supreme Court, as in the case of Sankara Prasad, unanimously held that the Parliament has absolute right to make any provision, amend any provision of the Constitution, including fundamental right. However, very important point, out of 5 judges, the decision is unanimous. And these two, justice, that is, one is Honorable Hidayatullah and another is Madolkar, Justice Madolkar. They have disagreed on the very substance part. In fact, the Justice Madolkar said, what he said is very important. He propounded the doctrine of basic structure in his judgment as early as in 1964. He referred to the intention of the Constituent Assembly to give permanency to the basic structure of the Constitution. And basic structure of the hand said it is a matter of consideration whether making a change in a basic structure is merely an amendment or would it be, in effect, reviewing a part of the Constitution. In other words, you should discriminate between an amendment, ordinary amendment to the Constitution, and changing the dimension of the Constitution. You should make a change. So, indirectly, he hinted that the basic structure of the Constitution should not allow to be amended. So, but nevertheless, Sajjan Singh case, Supreme Court unanimously held that the Parliament has got every right to amend any part of the Constitution, including fundamental right. This is called Sajjan Singh case. So, of this, we have now seen right from the beginning, Ramesh Thappar case we have seen, Shanmugam Durarajan case we have seen, Shankara Prasad case we have seen, and we have seen Sajjan Singh case. In Sajjan Singh case, we have seen Article 309 also, 310 also, 311 also, and amendability of the Constitution with reference to Sajjan Singh case. Tomorrow, we will see Golaknath case, very important landmark judgment of the Supreme Court 1967. Landmark judgment which changes the entire dimension of the constitutional law. So that we will see tomorrow. Thank you. We will end the class now. Thank you.